Welcome back to the Dark Reading News Desk here at RSA. Terry Sweeney with Dark Reading. I'm joined now by Mar Tang, Field CISO at Pentera. Jay, welcome to the Dark Reading News Desk.
Terry, thank you so much for having us here. Really appreciate it.
We are talking automated pen testing in the cloud, which is a subject near and dear to everyone's heart. Needless to say, cloud security is complex. This is the maybe understatement of the decade. Could we start, if you just could break that down into, say, some major challenges or issues or topical headings, things that customers are really up against as they try to manage cloud security these days?
Sure. I think first and foremost, we have to recognize that the cloud is absolutely a target. CrowdStrike has stated in their annual report that they've seen a growth year over year of about 75% just in cloud attacks alone. IBM has also stated in their report that 82% of attacks involve cloud data. So the cloud is absolutely being targeted. I think a second challenge is that cloud, for some reason, is complex, right? And we're dealing with data, we're dealing with identities, but yet we sometimes still have niche teams, right? Or separate teams that are handling this. And how can you secure something unless you're familiar with the architecture? So it is still somewhat niche. I have seen some customers that have their own cloud security team that's part of the security team in general, which is good, but I think it is still challenging because it's still somewhat separate in a lot of organizations. And then to that point, how do you know what the risk posture is unless you're testing? And in that regard, it's the penetration testing, which is still very niche. And that still happens far and few between, or not as often as I think generally we would feel more comfortable with, right? Once or twice a year is still, it's not the continuous pulse that we would really like to have.
Yeah, sure. I think the other thing that's happening in tandem, as with any part of the IT world, is we're seeing it play out in security, where you have organizations that are trying to balance, say, the mix of like point products with, say, the more comprehensive approach of a platform. And like, there's not a right or wrong here. This is a moving target, obviously, and is completely dependent on the size, budget ability, and even just the requirements of a given organization. Yeah. So that's a long way of asking. What's your assessment of how it's playing out between point products and platforms where cloud security is concerned?
Yeah, I think we're seeing some consolidation, like we saw Wiz acquired Gem not so long ago. And I think we're going to continue to see more of that. I think the challenge is that products may cover A, B, and C, or B, C, and D. And that delta of A and D is still important enough that organizations are saying, okay, you know what, we need the two. Because whatever company A is doing, they're doing it really well, and whatever company B is doing, they're doing it really well. And large players, should they have the appetite to try and bring those companies into their fold, it's in their best interest to do it because their focus is very niche, and they're doing it to the best of their ability.
Sure. Okay. Well, with that in mind, you've recently introduced Pentera Cloud. Tell us a bit about some of its key features and what distinguishes it in the marketplace.
Yeah, Pentera Cloud really was created as the first automated penetration testing platform for the cloud. So think about running adversary emulations, real life tools, techniques, procedures that attackers are going to be using now native to cloud. And that we're talking about looking for vulnerabilities, exploiting vulnerabilities, launching code, moving laterally, but now applying that to cloud workloads, cloud services, cloud identities, and not just cloud, but the whole IT environment, which cloud is a part of. Sure. And that's what makes Pentera Cloud very special, because yes, you can attack your cloud, you can understand the risk posture in your cloud, but how is that risk posture affecting the overall posture of the organization? That's what we're looking to enable our customers to do on a continuous basis.
So the Pentera spin on this is that Pentera Cloud is able to evaluate the IT environment in a holistic way and validate attacks all across all aspects of the attack surface. Can you break that down and explain really what's happening there?
Yeah, I mean, think about the way the environment's set up. You have your internal landscape, your internal attack surface, then you have your whatever is externally exposed, your external attack surface, and now we have this new attack surface that's grown over the past couple of years in the cloud. Well, attackers, they don't care, right? They're going to go, it's an intricate web of vectors, and you can go from cloud to on-prem to cloud, it doesn't matter. So we need to look at this holistically and see if an attacker can start an intrusion on your cloud admin's workstations because they have secrets or access that can be exploited and taken, and then can the attackers then pivot into the cloud? Or vice versa. Is there information in the cloud that is important that can then lead to wide-scale exposure on-prem? And looking at it from both angles should give you a better understanding of, yes, our posture is ready to handle these types of attacks.
So how were SOC professionals handling this kind of validation before cloud?
Well, before cloud, it was very much manual third parties. We see that very heavily. We're doing this once a year, we're doing it twice a year, maybe because organizations had to, because of compliance, or maybe they wanted to be hygienic in their security posture, which is great, but when you think about how often the environment's changing, think about from the cloud perspective how often the environment is changing, and that can fundamentally increase your risk footprint. We need to be doing this more often. We need to be doing continuous. So continuous is really the name of the game, so you can just always have that pulse.
Great. Let's just finish off then by talking a bit about some of the differences between Pentera Cloud and, say, existing solutions like CSPM or CNAPP platforms. What do you see as the major differentiators?
Yeah, so for us, we're looking to actually validate the risk that the CSPMs or the CNAPPs are bringing to the forefront by launching the actual attacks. So you can see that there may be some misconfigurations and you can make those changes and you can rescan with them, but we don't want to assume. We want to assume nothing. We want to validate. So only by launching the attacks are we going to see, yes, the risk is no longer present because the attacks were not successful. And these are attacks, again, like assuming roles or trying to get secrets out of the secrets manager, and then trying to, if possible, to move laterally and execute code and continue. And then, of course, like I said, potentially pivoting into the on-prem environment, which CSPM and CNAPP, they just don't have any governance or visibility into because that's not what their focus was. And that's okay. That's where we come into play.
Excellent. Well, this has been a great primer on automated testing, pen testing in the cloud. Thanks for joining us on the Dark Reading News Desk today.
Terry, thank you so much.
We've been talking with Mar Tang of Pentera. This has been Terry Sweeney for the Dark Reading News Desk. Thanks for joining us for this segment. We'll see you next time.